All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Mr. Jackson's Music Appreciation course. Today, we're going to be talking about the jazz era and the historical figures that go along with it. What you'll be learning is the things about the early jazz era, the influential figures, how jazz became a musical style, and at the end of this PowerPoint, you'll be able to answer the questions that I have on the last slide. And don't worry, you'll be able to use your notes. Just take effective notes. So what is jazz? And jazz is a genre of music created in the early 1900s by African Americans, mostly thought of by the slaves that came over that brought over these drum beats that had different forms of improvisation, syncopation, polyrhythms, these forms of communication that are put in music. So where and how did jazz originate? We have the influences of blues, ragtime, and spirituals, which give us our rhythms, our underlying chord changes, harmonic structure, our melodies. And these were formed around the New Orleans area in the French Quarter, which was a place where slaves could congregate together, make music, and have fun on their days off on their Sundays. The important scenes for jazz would have been the Cotton Club, which was a famous nightclub in the 1920s and 1930s and attracted audiences from New York, the cream of the crop in New York. Most prominent performance space for jazz musicians. Duke Ellington and his band remained there from 1927 into 1931. Basin Street was a red light district, and red light meaning an area of popularity. Many people stopped there, like you would at a red light, that was in the French Quarter in New Orleans. It had high-end saloons and mansions that were dedicated to prostitution. Storyville, which came before Basin Street, was also in New Orleans, was around from 1897 to 1917 in New Orleans. It was an area that regulated prostitution and drugs. They did not make it legal, however, they didn't have to say what specifically about prostitution. This place was shut down by the U.S. Navy in November 14th, 1917. Storyville contained a dance hall, cabaret, speakeasies, and a gambling spot for many people coming through that area. So let's talk about the big band layout. There are four main sections in the big band. You have your rhythm section, which has piano, upright bass, drums, and the occasional guitar. Your trumpet section, which is a B-flat trumpet or cornet or flugelhorn. Your trombone section has 3 trombones and a bass trombone. And your saxophone section contains 2 alto saxes, 2 tenor saxophones, and a bari sax. So now let's talk about the prominent big band leaders during this time. This would include Count Basie, Duke Ellington, Glenn Miller, Buddy Rich, and Benny Goodman. Count Basie, whose real name was William James Basie, was born August 21st, 1904, and he died April 26, 1984. He was a very accomplished pianist and organist. He dropped out of school at an early age to perform many piano gigs, which got him to his popularity. His soloing style was very simplistic, very short, sporadic notes. He wrote Jumpin' at the Woodside, 1 O'Clock Jump, April in Paris, and Spelunky. Another great pianist was Duke Ellington, whose real name was Edward Kennedy Ellington. He was born April 29, 1899, and he died May 24, 1974. Ellington was known for having one of the swinginest, and yes, I just made up that word, big bands around that toured around Europe. They had main residency in the Cotton Club. Ellington was a well-known name in the jazz household. He wrote Don't Get Around Much Anymore, Cottontail, St. James Infirmary, and The Mooch. Glenn Miller, born Alton Glenn Miller, was born March 1st, 1904 and died December 15th, 1944. The tragic thing about Glenn Miller was that when he went on a flight, he did not return. It was suspected that a stray bomb, hit his plane, and of course things weren't recovered. Glenn Miller was known for his patriotism and his sound. He played trombone. He also played mandolin. And basically, he was really known for his commercial success on swing. He wrote In the Mood, American Patrol, and Chattanooga Choo Choo. Next, we have Buddy Rich, born Bernard Rich, was born September 30th, 1917, and died April 2nd, 1987. Was a virtuosic drummer who had a great groove, great beat, great sense of rhythm. The negative thing about Buddy Rich was his crazy temper. In what we know as the bus recordings, his pianist would record any of his angry outbursts toward other band members. Certain things that he said was, if I have to tell you again, we're going to take it outside and I'm going to show you what it's like. This guy is not my kind of guy. And let's see how he does up there without all the assistants. Rich wrote Birdland, Caravan, and The Beat Goes On. And the last big band leader we're going to talk about is Benny Goodman. Benjamin David Goodman, born May 30th, 1909, died June 13th, 1986, was a virtuosic clarinetist, was known as the father of the big band. Like Ellington, Goodman was a household name. It was said that he was the single most important jazz or popular music performer in jazz history. Another interesting fact about Goodman is he was one of the first to be a well-known integrated jazz conductor. Goodman wrote Sing, 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 Stompin' at the Savoy, and Moonglow. So I hope you're paying attention because here are your questions. So I need you to name 3 of the 5 big band leaders we discussed. What are the 4 main sections of the big band? What helped to influence jazz? What are some characteristics of jazz? And last, I need you to name 3 songs and the big band leaders who wrote them. Have a wonderful day and good luck on your questions.